If you've been accused of committing domestic violence, you need a lawyer right now, whether or not you did it. If you did it, if you made a mistake, there is still a path forward. There is redemption. We can get counseling. We can figure out options for an abused persons program. We can figure out a substance abuse program. We can figure out anger management, and we can find a way forward so that you can still hopefully be involved in your children's lives and have a better future for your family. But if you didn't make a mistake and these accusations are false, it needs to be stopped now. The reality is that a domestic violence conviction in a criminal sense or a finding of abuse in a civil protective order can have a dramatic effect on your divorce or child custody situation. And if you did nothing wrong, you need representation to make sure that doesn't happen to you. There are also certain things that you have to understand about what happens when you get painted with that brush of being accused of domestic violence. Number one, you can absolutely have no contact with the person accusing you. Number two, you have to follow all orders, whether it's a police order or a civil protection order. Number three, you need to make sure that you turn over any and all possible handguns or weapons. These are just the top three things in my head, but there's a number of things that you have to do to keep yourself and your future safeguarded. If you've been accused of domestic violence, don't wait, get representation right away. When I have a client that comes to me who has been accused of domestic violence and they swear to me that they haven't done anything, I start looking for the evidence. In one case, I found out that my client was in an entirely separate state, more than 45 minutes away when the alleged incident happened. In another case, they had in-home cameras, a nanny cam specifically, that caught the alleged incident on camera, and it was not at all like the accuser described. And in a third case, we found out that the phone abuse that was being alleged was actually a burner phone being done by the accuser's sister. You gotta look for the evidence, because if someone is making up these allegations, and I hope that doesn't happen often, but when it does, there's often a trail of falsified evidence, and so you've really gotta start looking out for that. The other thing is you gotta think strategically. If you can't find evidence that this is a false accusation, we're likely going to sit down with you and have a serious conversation about whether it makes sense to just consent to a protective order without any finding whatsoever, so that you can move forward. Sometimes there can even be a strategic advantage in this. In one case where I had a gentleman who was accused of domestic violence, we consented to a protective order, but only with 50-50 custody moving forward. In another one, we consented, but because it was my client's house, the accuser actually had to leave the house, even though my client swears nothing happened. It was his house, and with the protective order, he got the house to him. So strategy can take a variety of different opportunities, and you want to sit down with an attorney who knows what they're doing. The burden of proof in a domestic violence civil protection order case is it more likely to have happened than not? It's not beyond a reasonable doubt like a lot of people think. That's for criminal. This is for civil. It is 51%. That's it. Is it just slightly more likely to have happened than not? That's a hard thing for a lot of people accused of domestic violence to kind of wrap their heads around. If a civil protective order is granted against you and it has a finding of abuse in it, this can have dramatic implications in your life. I've had clients fired from their jobs, lose security clearances around here. If they are in any way in law enforcement, lose the ability to carry a weapon. People can lose access to their home for up to a year or potentially even more if it is extended. People can lose access to their children or have access to their children only in supervised settings. People can be required to pay significant sums of emergency family maintenance that doesn't have really a huge basis in ability to pay and need, because a protective order hearing is a very small snapshot. It's not a whole trial on finances. I've had people lose access to their cars, and I have had people unable to work because they cannot go to their place of work. These are some pretty serious implications of a protective order, and you want to talk to a qualified attorney to help mitigate some of the risks associated with having a finding of abuse against you. If you've been accused of domestic violence, do not wait. You need to talk to an attorney right away. At Z Family Law, we don't write endings, we create new beginnings. And this accusation, as hard as today may be, whether you did it or whether you didn't, can still be your moment to spring forward into a new life and into a new beginning. And we're here to help you get there.